to episode 49 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic.
The last week we talked just a little bit about Flash and Arrow and how CW is still killing it as far as the DC shows and everything goes. This week debuted Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl, but I think before I want to jump into those, I think we should talk a little bit about what happened on Flash and Arrow this week, because it kind of ties in a little bit, doesn't it, to Legends and Supergirl. Well,
Eventually
at least
they
Legends.
all will be. Eventually they all will be. As of right now, they're just slowly getting to that part. But with Flash and Arrow, I mean, Arrow started it all, right? Arrow is the one that launched everything. The first two seasons were great. I can't remember when they started introducing Flash, but Flash for me has kind of slowly taken over as my favorite CW, my favorite DC CW on CW show, and I mean, is that yours too?
It is, but so okay. I just want to go over the second episode really quickly, because the first episode I thought was pretty strong, even though there was a little bit.
Are you talking Arrow or Flash?
I'm talking Flash.
Okay.
I had a little bit, not big of a deal of an issue the first episode. It was okay, or actually, it was pretty decent episode. But this second,
I had a bigger problem than you did.
Yeah, you did. Which isn't really saying a lot, because we don't really have huge problems with these shows. But this second episode, now I'm kind of I'm almost in superhero or in Flash fatigue, because they keep finding a way to oh, it's the main bad guy throughout the whole season, and we're bringing everybody back, even though they just left. And so it feels like to me that the Flash isn't moving forward, isn't moving on to something new. It's now with the time travel thing, they can revisit the same stories over and over again. And to me, this last episode, I just kind of watched it going it's the same shit over again. Yeah, they got the team back together, and he went back in time a second time to refix what he just fucked up, and now everything's fucked up again, almost even worse. And
I think I'm right there with you.
Time.
yeah.
And so
I think I'm kind of right there with you with that, because you're right. They just I mean, I said it in the last podcast. How many times is he gonna fucking kill his mom? You know what I mean?
Right.
So so now it seems like every season deals with him since they introduced his ability to travel through time. Every time he messes with time, every season he has to go back and fix it, and then something else messes up afterwards, and it's pretty boring after a while, because how many times can you actually go back? And at a certain point, even the watcher is the viewer is gonna be thinking, hey, can you stop going back in time? Because every time you do that, you fuck things up. So please stop doing that. Just concentrate on saving the people in the present.
And I don't know about you, but the second episode is so depressing. The whole time he's trying to get everyone together and get the team back and get them all excited again, and everyone's just yeah, whatever, dude. That time, it's not how we're all about. And so to me as a viewer, just oh man, we got to go through this all over again. They spent all that time building the team up, and now they're starting from scratch. And while it's supposed to bring some freshness or something to it, instead it's just annoyance, because I'm dude, you guys need to move forward into something.
Did you pick up that line that Barry said about all the villains that had powers in the other alternate universe will have powers now? They'll just start merging, and then what's her face started showing the Frost powers, and then that means Cisco will probably start coming into his own as well. So you're gonna have those two people eventually use powers as well. So
yeah, we're gonna get
which isn't a big deal.
We're gonna get a Killer Frost episode for sure, because one of the titles of the Flash episodes is called Killer Frost. So
okay,
she's finally gonna come into her own, I guess. But the problem is in the other universe she was evil. So maybe she's going to end up being good, you know. So we'll see. You know, that there was a couple things in there that was kind of exciting to me, but as a whole, I was like, oh man, they're just like just in Stalesville. They need to like move forward and like move on and do something new and introduce some
Yeah, that was
different
the
type of bad guy.
yeah, that was the good thing. That was the good thing about Flash up until they introduced time travel, was
Yeah,
that the show was always moving forward. You know, we got Grodd, we got Killer Shark or the Shark,
King Shark. Yeah,
King Shark. Yeah, it was always moving forward where things that you didn't think you were going to see they actually put in the show, and now every time it has to do with time travel, multiple universes, and a speedster.
yeah. How many
The only thing they
speedsters?
haven't,
Ugh.
yeah, they haven't. The only thing they haven't brought back in this season is the friend who's actually secretly the enemy. That's the only thing that they haven't brought back because they did that
Well,
for
we don't
what, two or
know
three
who.
seasons.
What's his name is in the show now, Malfoy. So you know the guy who played Malfoy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So you're like, well,
I'm
maybe
drawing
he's
a blank.
Alchemy. Isn't Alchemy the new main bad guy? But the Speedster's just kind of like the secondary bad guy.
Yeah, but he's really not like he's not he's not really coming off as a friend to Barry. He's pretty dickish.
That's true.
So
That's
he's
true.
not
It's a good
much.
cover though.
He's
That's a good cover.
Yeah, yeah. He's not too far off of Draco.
Yeah.
He's just missing a wand and a robe, and that's basically Draco. So
Yeah. So
he's
basically,
not
Flash is
veering
Harry
too
Potter.
off.
Let's do it.
Oh well, yeah, he does have a lightning bolt on his chest, not on
That's
his head,
true.
but
um. So anyway, move on to Arrow. Did you catch up? I know that you were trying to watch the second episode
yeah,
before we
I did
recorded.
watch it. I did watch it, and oh my god, I'm really not liking the show at all. I don't know what your thought about the second episode was, but I thought it was comical when he was like when he was yelling at the recruits, and um, Felicity would chime in and be like, "Can I speak to you like right now?"
Right
And
in front of the
if I know,
recruits.
yeah, yeah, if I was standing there, I'd be like, I'd be thinking like, Arrow's pussy whipped or something. Like, why is this woman involved? Who is dressed in street clothes? Who is dressed like as a secretary or a businesswoman interfering with training? Like, why is she standing there?
Which is
You
so
know.
stupid because they don't. He doesn't want them to know his identity, right? And he told her you need to put on a mask. So if he ever, if
Yeah,
they those
it's not an
recruits ever,
argument.
right? If those recruits ever see her walk in the streets and she's hanging out with Ollie, they're gonna be like, wait a minute, that
Well, he
he's got a
made that
5 o'clock
very
shadow.
clear. Yeah, he made it very clear that was like it's not a request. You need to put on a mask, and then the very next cut scene with them training is she's just standing there in a bright red dress.
Right.
Bright red, blonde hair,
Look
blue
at me.
eyes. Yeah,
Don't
she's
look
not
over
even
here. I'm
standing
not
in
here.
yeah, she's not even standing in the shadows or like up on the second floor. She's in a bright red dress. I think she was in a bright red dress. I don't know, but she stood out. I mean, blonde hair, blue eyes, bright red dress, or whatever dress she
I'm.
was wearing that was tight.
I
And
don't
there's no
know.
way you could mistake that.
Yeah, and they have an opportunity here to reboot this series, with new recruits and stuff like that. I'm okay with that because I was getting tired of Diggle and even
But it's
Thea, and I
so
was
unrealistic. At least with Diggle, he had like
well,
Marine training or Special Forces training. I can't even remember what her background is. I know the black dude who works for Queen.
yeah, but he's a
He
nerd,
he's
so he's
yeah
trying to learn how
he's
to fight.
yeah he's an IT, so that's great. And then there's that other guy in the hockey mask. I don't know what training he has yet. They haven't gone into his background, but
But he's been doing part. Well, Arrow saw him doing like he's been
a few
fighting.
times, yeah.
Yeah,
But
so he
still,
recruited
and,
him,
and
and
then and then right after that argument, or he's trying to train them, and he's specifically showing them how unready they are, and then all of a sudden Felicity comes in and tells him that maybe I think it's Felicity that tells him that he should, kind of trust the recruits and let them, guard the thing after like one training session.
right.
It's almost like it's almost like Bruce Wayne in The Dark Knight Rises leaving the entire Batcave and everything to Robin. And you know, he went through all
Go
that
for
training
it.
with the League of Shadows. He doesn't even leave an instruction manual for the Batmobile or whatever. He could just fucking blow up the Batcave by pressing the wrong button. It's like the same thing. I mean, it's a cool shot, but when you think about it logistically, you're like, how do I turn on the computer? What's the
Right.
password? What's the password?
The first thing he does is take the what's the password? The
Yeah,
first
what's the
thing he does
Wi-Fi
is take
password?
the he takes the Batmobile out and realizes, oh, I got to hit this button to launch it because like
Yeah.
wasn't it? There was no like ramp or anything. You had to like jump
Yeah,
like this
yeah,
gap.
you had to jump like a 50-foot like gap, and like
Like
there's no
every time.
instructions. Yeah, every time you have to land it perfectly. I mean he hasn't even driven the thing, and now he's got to like hit a jet rocket to get out of the driveway.
Exactly.
Or what if he accidentally hits the wrong button and he ejects the bat pod
Yeah,
instead?
right.
Like he wants to
Yeah.
open the cockpit of the Batmobile and he just ejects the bat pod instead.
Totally. That's
But that's except
what if the suit
so it
doesn't
only took.
fit?
Yeah, how did he know his size?
He's like, wow, Christian, like Bruce Wayne's like way bigger than I am. How am I gonna
He's
fit
gonna
through
like go
this?
out into the streets and he's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Batman's back!" And he's like, "No, I'm Robin." But you
It's
have a
all
bat signal
sagging.
on your but you have a bat signal on your suit. It's
The
like, "No,
suit's
but
all
I'm Robin."
sagging off of him.
Yeah,
It's
it's like a kid
like
wearing
soggy pajamas.
his
Yeah.
dad's pajamas or something. He can't see out of the cowl because the mask keeps falling over his face.
uh, but yeah, Arrow, the producers have said that after this year they're not going to be doing any more flashbacks. But I was like, why didn't you just end it 3 years ago? This is the
Yeah,
worst because now the flashbacks are like 5 years ago, and it's literally leading up to the part where he's
and then they added the
he's back
Diggle
on the
like
island.
present Flash
Yeah, I
thing.
didn't like that. I don't like
The
any of
second
that.
storyline with Diggle.
Yeah, fucking Diggle. What a name is that?
That's a
Diggle.
terrible name.
DJ Diggle. Yeah, I
It reminds me of um, what the fuck's his name from Boogie Nights? Dirk Diggler.
oh. Or that Australian kid band, the Wiggles. It could be the Diggles.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but they're doing these flashbacks, and I understand like they try like at least they tried this time around to make the storylines parallel because the whole ring the bell thing, which I thought was so ridiculous. Like I was watching that going like I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to say like they got to work together to defeat you, not come at you one at a time. It's just like people going one at a time at Jet Li or one at a time at Jackie Chan or one at a time at Bruce Lee. Like
That
fucking
reminds me
how
of that
many
SNL
fucking
skit. Did you ever see that SNL skit
which
where it's
one?
like Adam Sandler and Phil Hartman and they're all the ninjas. They used a clip from American Ninja
Oh,
and it's like it's a support group for the ninjas, right? Because at that point in time there was like a whole shit ton of like
oh no,
martial arts movies,
yeah.
and it's support groups for the ninjas that are like, we should probably all attack at the same time. Like that was one of the lines, and then one of the other characters, I forget who, somebody like says, we should really utilize these Chinese stars. And then the other person's like, maybe we should be more careful of where we're throwing them. And then he removes his hood and the Chinese star is like in his eye.
That's
You got to look it up.
awesome.
It's an
Yeah, I'll
old
have to look
SNL
that up.
skit that basically says what you just said,
That's
where
funny.
they don't like all those henchmen, like even the stormtroopers. Like the ongoing joke is the stormtrooper can't hit shit,
Right.
you know. And it was the same ongoing joke with like the ninjas and everything in the back in the day in the early '80s when all these like ninja movies were coming out, where if you were a black ninja, dressed in all black, you were basically just there for fodder. You were
Right.
going to attack one at a time, and you would just get your butt kicked. And that's exactly what the new recruits did, was get their butt kicks, and that
Yeah.
got their butts kicked. And then all of a sudden, it took Felicity to tell Arrow to go against his better judgment and say, "Let them go,"
Yeah, let them go on
security
a mission.
detail.
They'll be fine. They can't ring that
Yeah,
bell, but they'll be fine.
yeah, yeah. They'll be fine. It wasn't even their fault though. It was the drunk father of Black Canary that fucked it
Oh,
up.
that
So
I can't stand that character either. I wish he would have died a couple of seasons ago. I can't stand that guy. That guy's like got like major. I don't know. He's
I
got some
can't
major
stand that. I
issues.
can't really stand that whole family. Actually, I mean the fake family. Like I can't stand that whole family.
Well,
Like I
two out of the
can't
three
stand
have
the
died three times.
I think I like the mom the best because she just is the only one that was like real out of all of them. I couldn't stand
Yeah.
Black Canary because she was so annoying. She basically got her training in 1 week going to kickboxing classes. So I don't know what constitutes you to be ready for being a superhero fighting crime at night with nothing but skin tight outfit and no body armor.
Yeah, at least her sister like was with the League of Shadows for like 2 or 3
Yeah,
years.
exactly. She had
So
training. I mean, I can't stand her either on League of Legends of Tomorrow, but we'll get into that later.
she's the weaker
Um,
character.
well, I can't
Um,
stand what they've done with her. I don't like her. I can't stand what they've done with her.
yeah,
But
I
we'll
no,
get into that later.
I totally agree with you. But anyway, so they're still doing these flashbacks, which are complete. Now they're like down to like 10 seconds or 15 seconds. They're like really super short now, and they disrupt or interrupt the action or interrupt what things when something's starting to happen. They interrupt the show, so it like really
Yeah.
messes with the flow of the show.
You know what would
And
really help me out is if they make because every time they do a flashback they make that noise.
yes.
If they would put the flashbacks every single time right before commercial, I could go do something as soon as that noise comes on and just completely ignore it.
like Pavlov's dog, just like
Yeah, because
it's
it doesn't matter. I could just go leave the TV or fast forward the DVR as soon
right.
as
You
that
hear that
sound hits.
sound, and immediately you're like, I need to
Just
go
tune
take
out.
a piss, or I need to
Yeah.
go. Yeah, I need to get a crab cake. I'm just hungry all of a sudden.
Something, anything.
Um, yeah, because those flashbacks they're just, I mean, absolutely, I mean, just a complete annoyance. And I think I was telling you the other day that if they would just edit those out of the show would flow way better.
It'd be a lot
Like
shorter too. It'd probably be a half-hour episode.
that's probably true.
There were some episodes like last season where you were stuck in flashback world and you're like and you know that this has nothing to do with what's going on now and it doesn't
Right.
matter. It's not interesting and it has nothing to do with the plot at all. Like it's like if
Um,
they made like a Jaws 6, you
yeah,
didn't need or Jaws 5, you didn't need to see 3 and 4. You just
right.
completely omit those.
Well, and then you're like, how many sharks out there that have a mind of their own like that? They don't. That's I think one out of a gajillion is, you know, I think what was it like Jaws 4, the Revenge? Like the shark came back to kill the family. I was like, how the fuck
Yeah.
does that shark know the family?
Yeah.
Like, come on, the other sharks talk to him, like
Well,
radio him. And,
not only that, but the shark killed the son in
yeah,
Martha's vineyard, right?
yeah,
And then swam all the way to Jamaica to get the other son.
right. It's
So
basically the
fucking
Liam Neeson of
stupid.
sharks. You know, it's like fuck.
I would have. I can't. Somebody just. Oh my god. That wasn't even. That wasn't Universal, right? That was like Canon or somebody back in the day,
I don't
right?
know who that was. Somebody, bought the rights or said, "Hey, this is a good idea." It's kind of like when they did Superman: The Quest for Peace. That movie never should have been made, but he wasn't going to do it, but they paid him like $10 million, some outrageous amount of money for that time to be in that movie.
Yeah, he didn't
Otherwise,
even like
Christopher
work out.
never would have
He
done
didn't
it.
even work out for that movie.
No, he's got man tits in that movie.
Yeah, he's got like no. He's got no. I mean, he's still in good shape, but he's not. He doesn't look like Superman. If you look at the
No.
first Superman versus this one, or versus the fourth one,
Oh my
it
gosh. I
didn't look
mean,
right.
well, now you got Henry Cavill that just looks ridiculous. Like they chiseled him out of
Whoa.
marble and shit.
Yeah,
It's
they just
fucking
can't give him
crazy.
anything worthy to do.
Right. Just stand there and look stupid. That's oh
Yeah.
boy. But anyway, yeah, so
Anyway,
Arrow, I don't know, 2 episodes in, I'm not really happy about it, but also it's like the one thing that's keeping me in that show right now is the thought that they're going to do a major crossover. And
which they
those are
already kind
always
of
my
did.
favorite.
They already set in motion that with Legends of Tomorrow with that
Yes, good segue.
with that big, big like I don't know, like mic drop at the end of that episode.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because so Arrow was in the beginning of this, and him with some other dude, and they come across the what did they come across? Like they found the ship in the bottom of the Atlantic or something.
Yeah,
Like
off the
they,
coast of New York.
yeah, and they only find the one guy in there, not Captain Cold, but his friend brother. The what's his name again? God, I can't even remember the people's names in that show.
I don't know, but I don't like the way he talks. It's really hard to understand.
Oh yeah, oh him and Captain Cold. I mean, I love them in that show Prison Break, but on this show, they are so over the top. They're just caricatures. I don't like the way they talk at all. Like
They're a little. They're right. They're a notch below. What's her face? Jada Pinkett
yes,
Smith.
Fish Mooney. Yeah,
Yeah, they're like a notch below her
I'd say
in
yeah.
the show.
That's correct. I'd say that's correct. But yeah, so they find him and start questioning him, and then that's when he starts talking about like, we were approached by this guy at the end of last season who said, "Do not go to 1942." I think the specific date, and then they have like a time ripple or something like that, and they decide, oh, like what, Gideon, where is that? And they're like, oh, it's 1942, and they're like, well, shit, we can't go there, and they're like, yeah, but a nuclear warhead went off in New York City and killed a bunch of people. We need to go back there. So he tells that story where they go back in time. Again, time travel, which it's fine. Like when this
Well,
show
that's the
came
whole
on,
basis of the show.
yeah, when the show came on, I thought, oh man, time travel is like Doctor Who, and like then you've got like this like team up. I thought it was going to be like this really cool thing, but it ends up it's kind of like seeing a bunch of like pro basketball players on the All Star team like play next to each other, and then like they're not very good. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's
this is
like
like that would be like the bench pro basketball players because that's what
yeah,
these people are. Except for the Atom, which is he's really underutilized in the show, but
very much so. Like that
um,
really upsets me at times where they really underutilize him. Like, and his storyline last season was just stupid, pining over that girl
yeah,
who's yeah.
he's not
So
even on the show anymore.
right, what happened there? Like, did they disappear? I don't remember. I have to go back and
I
watch the
forget.
last episode again because so much crap happened. But they
It
were the most
clearly
annoying
doesn't matter.
things.
It
No,
clearly
it
did
really
not matter.
doesn't. But yeah, but having Arrow on there was kind of cool because it kind of tied that together a little bit, and then
Well, yeah, I mean they tied Flash and Arrow to this episode.
yes, um, but they went back and Damien Dark was there,
Can't
which
stand that character.
yeah, I can't stand that character either. He was there last year. I think him and Savage were just as bad. I mean, both those shows had really shitty bad guys.
Yeah,
Or it just kept going on and on was the problem. But so you got Damien Dark now who's dealing with this warhead and all that stuff, but they thwart him and all that, but then they get stuck behind. And that's when like uh, if the episode okay, so if the episode was super super good, I think that reveal at the end when the Justice Society shows up, I would have been way more stoked. But they showed up, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, that was just kind of tacked on the end of the episode. I'm like, all right, that's kind of cool because like when the chick floated down and all the people like
hmm
just kind of that was I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I wasn't like jumping up and down going like that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. Does it seem to you that Legends of Tomorrow is like for some reason on paper it sounds amazing, but in
hmm
execution it's extremely meh. Like
yeah. You're
it's
no,
like a
no.
flat line.
That's pretty
I
spot on. It's
I don't
like
even know
somebody who
what to.
has a great idea. Because I
Yeah,
remember being really psyched for the show, and I really had a hard time getting through the first season. And
yeah,
basically because of what we talked about last season was like you're really going to go through however many seasons trying to fight Vandal Savage, and they finally like ended that storyline, and I was like, and when the Time Lords, not the Time Lords, the is it Time Lords? No, Time Lords Doctor Who. What do they call
yeah.
them here? Time Masters, right?
It's ass bandits, time bandits. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
whatever. Those people were all killed off or whatever the fuck they did. And then they were going to go through time and fix all the things that they had messed up. The bad people from the first season.
Hmm.
So that made me think, okay, the second season is going to be good because now they're not tied to Vandal Savage always. And then this season started, and I didn't really give a shit really about the Justice Society because it kind of felt, especially, I was thinking it was kind of forced. Like,
Yeah.
why are you introducing another team when you just finished the main reason for your story in the first season, and now you can kind of just go off and actually play with these characters in time, you know?
Yeah.
And you introduce this other stuff, and it felt forced when they told us about it, and then when I saw it on the show, to me it felt forced too. The thing that geeked me out was that I saw the Reverse Flash in here, and he was the one behind everything because
Yes.
he says something to Barry in the first episode, I think, where he says like it's something to the effect of, you know, you'll see, or something like that, or you haven't seen anything yet, or whatever he says. He hints at something, and Barry's like, "What are you talking about?" And then
Yes.
you know, fast forward to this premiere, and you find out what he was talking about, which he's going back in time, fucking with everything. So I'm
Yes.
guessing that's where that's going to happen. My problem with this whole the four show team up, I don't know, I can't remember the exact reason why they did what they did, where Supergirl is in an alternate reality or alternate universe.
Yes.
I don't like that at
I
all.
don't either. I don't either. But here's the
And
thing, though. Also, what you notice is that the three shows before Supergirl, the other three shows, are very much like the same kind of tone and mood, you know. And then you get Supergirl; it's very lighthearted, and I mean, they have some
mhm.
shit that happens, but it's not as dark in tone as those other three shows.
Do you
And
think
so,
it's funny now when Arrow tries to be really tough and badass with his voice modulator? I find it comical.
it is comical. It's
Like,
not.
he doesn't come off as like a badass, right? He doesn't. When Barry gets pissed off, I'm like, okay, he's a badass.
Well, it's because
But
that's against
when
character. You know, it's different because the first two seasons, Arrow was a fucking badass,
right,
and he got his ass handed to him, but yet he came out on top over Deathstroke because that was a great 2 season storyline.
it
And
was,
then
yeah,
like, and then after that, he kind of got soft. He stopped killing people. Remember, he stopped killing people. And
yeah.
then season three, he got stabbed and died and came back to life from Ra's al Ghul, or that was one of the worst bad guys ever.
Who do
And
you
then
think
last
this season's resurrection is going to be? Because every
from the
single season
Lazarus
we've had,
pit. Well, they've
well,
already
every single
said,
season we've had somebody die and come back.
yeah, I don't
So
know. I mean, they've already. I mean, now you have the two bad guys from Arrow and Flash working together, and you know Damien Dark's been in the freaking Lazarus pit.
right,
So yeah, I don't know. Like I'm a little bit, I'm hesitant right now. Like I liked seeing Imbart. Is it Imbart Thon? Like I
yeah.
liked seeing him in the episode. That was a surprise. Like over everything,
You're
I
talking about
thought
Legends,
that.
right?
Yeah, in Legends, that was the one
Yeah,
thing I was like, oh wow, okay, cool. Like that's interesting.
yeah. That I had the
But
same thing too.
everything else was exactly the fucking same as what we watched last year. The what's
All
her
right,
name?
so
The White Canary is sleeping
yeah,
with
let's
another
address
chick.
that. Yeah, let's
Okay.
address that because I think we said it last season for at the premiere or whatever we said it for,
Hmm.
or the season finale. It feels like they don't know what to do with her, and they obviously have this, you know, the bloodlust thing last season. You know, it was
Hmm.
fucking. I hate the words bloodlust
Me
because
too.
not only did we have to put up with it in Arrow, we had to put up with it in Legends. You know, but it feels like unless she's trying to kill somebody, the only other thing they can have her do is basically sleep with somebody, and it's always
Yeah,
women.
and I think and whatever. I mean, that's fine. But like every fucking episode, though,
No,
like
I don't care that it's I don't care that it's a woman, but it's every single time, and
well, even if it was a
to the
guy,
point.
if it
Well,
was a
to the
guy's
point where it's
job
almost
to,
like it's almost like are you trying to like get, you know, 14-year-old boys to watch this show, and that's how you do it, because that's
or
pretty lame.
or lesbian women, or
Yeah, I don't
again,
care what
like,
it is, but like give her
yeah,
something to do other than trying to kill somebody, because that's exactly what she did in this episode. She tried to kill Damien Dark, and she ended up sleeping with the Queen of France.
right.
Like that's the two things she did.
And it's the two things she does in almost every episode. It's the
Yeah,
same
that
thing
she
over and
she
over.
has she has other layers, but they haven't shown it yet. So I want to say that it's not that I don't like the actress. I
Hmm.
think when she's given something to do, she can can manage that. But what they're doing with that character alone is really repetitive, and if you boil it down, it's really bad.
You know what? You know what it is. I can't think of one character that's like the anchor of this show, really, because
There isn't one.
um, maybe that's the big problem. Because in the Flash, you got Barry, and well, all the characters are strong, all the secondary characters, and then in Arrow, Arrow is the obvious leader, but you have, even though, well, now the characters are pretty much like dispersed, and he's getting a new team, but he's clearly the leader. But you look at this thing, and like, you would think that the main guy in the coat, this is terrible. I can't believe I can't remember any of these people's names. Um, you would think that, the Doctor Who type character would be the leader, but he's kind of like one of the most boring characters on that show. He's not very interesting at all. Like last year, he had a purpose of like, I got to kill Savage, I got to save my family, and then just kind of got lost. Just kind of disappeared.
It's Rip
And
Hunter, by the way.
Rip Hunter, thank you. And and then you've got, the Atom, who I loved him on Arrow, and I love him as the Atom, but like they don't give him hardly anything to do. Like they did a little bit last year, and then I think in this last episode they had him like basically he tailed White Canary, which,
Well,
what,
how about how about
she didn't
how
even know
about the
he was
fact
there.
that so did you pick up on this where it's revealed that he disperses everybody throughout time, right?
Yeah,
And he was planning for this, right? Because he was talking to Firestorm, what's his first name? The black dude.
I can't remember.
Well, he was talking to
One
him
half of
about
Firestorm.
right. They were talking to him. He was talking to him about getting him ready for a time where he wasn't going to be around, right? So he clearly, and he even says it because after they play the tape, after they gather most of the people, and
Hmm.
Gideon plays the tape of Rip saying like, "I'm sorry, I had to disperse you throughout time." He was planning all of this, right?
Hmm.
It clearly showed that from the beginning of the episode, and I thought it was reiterated in that video. Did you pick up on that? That
I
he was
think
planning this
so.
the whole time? Okay,
Yeah,
so then
it kind
my
of seems that
problem
way.
so then my problem is why the fuck did he send the Atom without his suit to the dinosaur time?
Right.
Was he trying to fucking kill him, or was just like,
Yeah.
hey, it'd be pretty cool just to put a T-Rex in the show? What was he thinking? Like to
I
put
don't
him
know,
back in
man.
that time frame? You could
That
not
was
have put him in a
dumb.
more dangerous like place.
Right. And it's not like the dinosaurs, they see you in the suit, they're gonna like tell somebody that's gonna
He
scoot
didn't
by.
even have the suit though. He was
I
clearly
know.
always running for his life. Like he was trying to survive. He clearly did not have his fucking suit. So I didn't understand that when I was like when I saw the video of Rip telling the team that he, had to send them all away and he was planning this and all that shit. And I was thinking, so you purposely sent the Atom to dinosaur time?
Yeah,
Where he could die just as easily, like he could have died right away. He could have been food the second he got there.
right.
Food,
Yeah,
or he would have got trampled under, like
that didn't make
something.
sense to me either. That was really dumb.
Because everybody else got sent through time to a time frame where there were humans. He was the
Right.
only one that was sent to dinosaur time. He must have fucking hated
Why?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He's like, I need to move in on your chick.
He probably, like, Adam made a joke about his dead wife and kid or something, and they sent them there. He's like, I'll show you about a T-Rex.
I like that. You notice that throwaway line where they're like, "Well, if someone went back in time and did something, they're like, we need to go now because," and they're like, "Because the effect hasn't happened yet. Like it hasn't. We're like in a temporal state or some weird thing explanation. They said they're like in a bubble or something like that at the moment, and they only have a certain amount of time to decide whether they want to go back in time or not, because time will change eventually. So I guess it doesn't. I guess time doesn't change right away when someone goes back and dicks around with it. Like you have this like space of time to like figure out what to do. So
Hmm.
that was a little interesting because they're like, well, why hasn't anything been affected yet? And then Adam goes, well, we're in a temporal state, or we're in a flux, right? Like we're stand still right now with nothing. Time hasn't it hasn't happened yet, so we have time to like go back. And then they go back and and stop everything. But I thought that was kind of a throwaway line a little bit, because to me it feels like as soon as you go back and do something, it should affect everything. So like, if it's almost like Back to the Future was a little bit correct in that if you go back and then the parents were never going to get together, that he'd just be erased from existence. It makes sense. But
Right.
they do some really weird stuff, where, I mean, okay, Barry, like, we go back to the Flash, like, he goes back and saves his mom, and of course that screws up, a bunch of things, which makes sense. But then he goes back and lets her die again, puts everything back, goes forward again, and everything's still jacked up, but even worse because like he doesn't even have his parents again, and everything's worse. So just any little thing could really like mess with the timeline. And then he
Right.
starts losing his memory and all that shit. So I don't know. Time travel is very, very tricky to mess around with. And then if you make it like a thing, do you remember like in Next Generation, every other episode became an episode where they went inside the hologram room, you know? And
Right. Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
they, like, oh, whenever we can't do something, like think of something or do something, let's just go in the hologram room because we can do anything there. So like they use that hologram thing as a crutch on that show for like a full season. And I feel like they're doing that here with the time travel shit. They're just like, oh, whenever we can, every time we do time travel, we can totally fuck things up and do something different. And but it's getting to be like old hat. Like if you have the Flash doing it, it's starting to get boring. But you have Legends of Tomorrow doing it every episode, so like it's too much time travel. There's just too much of that shit going on to the point where it's like giving your girlfriend candy and roses every fucking day. Eventually they're gonna be like, stop it, like that's enough. Once in a while is okay. But so I don't know, this time travel shit is like, it's starting to like make me cross-eyed a little bit. So
Well, I'm wondering. I'm wondering if what the Reverse Flash has done throughout time is causing those little ripples in Flash's present.
It's possible. Like I've heard, I have done a lot of reading on this, but like in the beginning, they said, oh, the Flash going back and saving his mom, doing all that stuff, is going to jack with all the different timelines. And then someone came out and said, well, we're not going to really see that effect because each show is its own thing, but maybe we'll see something. But then, like, you watch the show and you're like, well, no, it looks like things are being affected. Like even Barry, it was kind of strange at first because Barry, after he fixed everything, everything was still jacked, and he went and saw Felicity, and he's like,
Hmm.
Felicity, I need help. This is what happened. And Felicity's like, oh, that's weird. Because I half expected her to see him and go, who the fuck are you? Like maybe he
Well,
jacked at the
no,
time so
everything was the
bad, but
same, but Diggle now has a son
right,
instead of a daughter.
that's fucked
So
up in and of itself.
that
Yeah,
changed. Yeah, like completely wiped her out of existence, and there's nothing he can do about it.
yeah,
Um, and there's nothing that you don't see the repercussions on the other shows. You only saw the repercussion in Flash's show for the Arrow universe.
right. That's
So
true.
there was nothing that happened in there that they addressed that was different. Like they didn't all of a sudden, make that Laurel's father sober. You know what I mean? Like they didn't
Right,
do anything and not explain it because that would be a lot of things to do, and that's understandable. But if you're gonna show the ripple effect in parts of the Flash, there's ways to do it, and I think Angel and Buffy did it really well when they crossed
yes,
over and affected each person's television show because they were one right after the other. I think
yes,
right, like it was Buffy. Then that the way that it aired was Buffy was first, and then it was Angel. So you
right.
saw the immediate repercussions of the shows. In this case, it's what, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But they premiered on opposite weeks. So now they're all going to be kind of on the same week, even though the Flash and Arrow will be one episode ahead.
Right.
But anyway, let's move on to Supergirl because let's get to that before we get into the weeds of the other shows that we've been doing because Supergirl debuted finally on
Yes.
CW, and I want to hear your opinion first about it.
Okay. Let's start with the good. Superman, loved him. Really surprised with this guy. I liked how he looked like he was having fun as being a superhero. He was, you know, he had charisma. He had like confidence, and he was funny. And like when he was Clark, he was bumbling and shit. And I loved it. I loved all of that.
He wasn't as bumbling, but go ahead, keep going.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else was good because I had a
Oh
big
wow.
problem. I had a big
Okay, go
problem
ahead.
with Supergirl. And
Okay.
I think it's the same problem I'm having with all the other shows. It just feels like more of the same stuff. And
Hmm.
and I also think that Superman. Okay, so having Superman on there, this is what my feeling is. He completely upstaged her. Like I felt like it was Superman's show and she was just on it as a guest star.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
he's good. He's really good as Superman and they utilized him the way they should have, but I don't think they should have. Okay, this is my opinion. I don't think they should have started the show with Superman. I think what they should have done is brought him in as a November sweeps, like 2 or 3 episodes or something like that, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
part of the crossover. That's what they should have done because it's very clear to me, like when they brought him on there for the very first show, I was digging on Superman big time, and then
Yeah.
so after the first like maybe 3 or 4 episodes, because he's supposed to be on there for a little bit, I think it's a big mistake because I think once he leaves, it's going to be like this gap of like, oh man, bring Superman back because I
Yeah.
really enjoyed him. And see, it's the same stuff with like Martian Manhunter is like back to being a grumpy dude, and I guess him and Clark have like a history, which are like, oh okay, that's interesting. We've only like
That storyline was taken. That was ripped from
yes,
Batman and Superman.
yes,
That's
I
been done
noticed
lots
that.
of times in the cartoon, and other iterations of their relationship where Batman keeps kryptonite. So that was taken. Basically,
Yes,
Martian Manhunter was Batman in that storyline.
yes. The other thing that was really kind of bizarre, I don't know if you caught this, but the new base, they just like
Yeah.
just went there, and all of a sudden, that's their new base, and or no, it's been there the whole time. They just never told Supergirl, but now they're hanging out there all the time, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, that was really weird. Like, why didn't they just say like, hey, the base we just like we've been working on this entire time is finally finished. We could start working from there. But no, they just
Not to
like kind
mention that, like not to mention that, like every other day, you're gonna see a red streak flying into that building.
of
Not
right.
very secretive. Not very
It's not
secretive
very
at all.
exactly. So I mean, the cave made sense, but now all of a sudden, oh, we're just going to work at this building. I'm just like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
I
like it's
understand
not a
that's
big deal for Supergirl to fly to the
no. It was
base.
kind of like their way of saying that they moved TV show channels. Like I get the whole, or at least that's what I thought it was, or I picked up on was like, oh, this is just them telling the audience like, wink, wink. We moved from one place to the next. We're now filming in Vancouver with everyone else, or we're on the CW with everyone else, or whatever.
Right.
So we moved from one place to the next, but it was just really out of place and weird the way it went down. And then they just shrugged it off and just kept. Then they just start meeting there all the time. I was like, all right, whatever. Um, let's see. Cat Grant is still the same. It's she's all right. Now they're trying to bring on the computer guy as a recruit for the DEO. I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. And then they found another Kryptonian, which
Hmm.
I'm just trying to rack my brain as to who that could be, because like it can't be Zod because that would just
Well, did
be.
they verify that it was Kryptonian, or they were speculating that it was
Well, I think they're
Kryptonian?
speculating because the same ship that they landed in, and also when they
Right.
tried to like prick him or take blood and all that stuff, everything was breaking on him, and so they're like, oh, he's
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean
no, he
he's
could be another species or something. But I was trying to like
from
think, well,
He
maybe
can be from Candor.
That's true. I was thinking maybe like, oh man, if they bring Zod, I'm gonna be really pissed because they've done that 15 times now. But it could be Brainiac. I mean, they really didn't do Brainiac service in Smallville. It was one of his shitty character.
Mm.
Um, so they
But they
could
shouldn't
do
bring it to
that.
Supergirl. That's a
No,
Superman
but
storyline.
yeah, but Superman's there, and they've said that they're gonna bring him, here and there on there. But I don't know, man. Like I think the show was just okay for me. I wasn't really that jazzed about it, with the exception of every time Superman was on screen, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like this is, I think it's because that's the way I've always that's the way Superman's always been to me, and so it was kind of felt really natural. I was like, "Oh, I really like this guy." Totally made
Okay.
me forget about Henry Cavill because I can't stand his Superman. And it's not his fault, really, but
So
anyway,
my
there you go.
opinion on the show is I actually got teary eyed at a certain point when
Nice.
Superman was doing something. I forget what he did, and I meant to remember it, but I can't right now. But I remember, holy shit, why am I getting emotional over this? And I think it's because I'm so sick of the fucking shit going on in the big screen. And
Yes.
I was like, I I was so skeptical about this Superman too, also
Hmm.
because the promos didn't seem right. The pictures looked really fucking weird. You know,
Yes, I
he didn't
agreed.
really look like Superman. And I'm going this just based on looks, right? Like I didn't know this guy acting. I've never seen him anything that I can recall that I've ever seen him in.
He was in
So I was
Teen
just going
Wolf or
based
something
on
like that.
looks, you know, like because if you give me a picture of Henry Cavill and you give me a picture of this guy, and you're like, okay, go pick a Superman. I'd pick Henry Cavill every day of the fucking week, right?
Right,
Like
right.
that, like we've said so many times, this guy looks like Superman. But my God, like he did everything that I pictured from all the best parts of each Superman. Like
Hmm.
for again, I think Brandon Roth in a lot of ways was better than Christopher Reeve. That's probably my I'm probably the only person that thinks that, but I've
Hmm.
argued it before with you. I think on the show too that I think Brandon Roth in certain ways was better than Christopher Reeve because he brought his own like strength, but he
Hmm.
wasn't goofy. He just did enough to throw you off. Like he's kind of clumsy, but he's not a fucking goofball, right? Like
Right.
because if you look at Christopher Reeve in the very first Superman, the guy's like 6'2". He's a good looking guy. He looks like he's just in a Halloween costume, right?
Right. Exactly. He's got his hair
Where
combed
like if you
over.
ever see like that one, yeah, if you ever see that like one girl who dresses in like big sweaters all the time, but she's like pretty, you know, you're like,
Yeah.
I bet you if she like didn't wear big sweaters, she'd probably be like really good looking. And the same thing with Christopher Reeve, right? He just hunches his shoulders and he's a good looking guy and he just like wears his hair all weird and shit like that. But you look at his physique shows up through his clothes. Like you could tell
Right.
he's fucking big, right? So this guy did the same thing. He's very charming as Superman. Like everything that you said. He looks like he's having fun. He's very confident though. Like he really portrayed the Superman well. What I loved even more was how he portrayed Clark, and he brought like his own version of it, where
Yes.
he is kind of because he had that thing with like Cat, where because that's the one thing like I never understood, right? Like okay, Clark is a pretty good looking guy because everybody's swooning over Superman, and Superman's a good looking guy. They're the same fucking person, right?
Right.
So, like in the Man of Steel or Batman v Superman, that guy is still the same good looking guy. Like he doesn't, they didn't really do anything to like make him less attractive as Clark Kent.
Right.
You know what I mean? He's just an everyday Joe Schmo guy, but he happens to be really good looking as a Joe Schmo guy, and they played that in this where he's very charming. He does a couple of clumsy things, but not to like the goofball status of what Christopher Reeve did, right? So I loved everything about that Superman, and I think I got teary eyed because of the fact that I can't stand the bleak. Oh my god, I got superpowers. The world sucks. I don't want to do this shit, right?
Right. Emo
So
Superman.
yeah. So I think that's why I got emotional over that because I was like, oh my god, this is what I want. This is my Superman. I want this Superman. Why can't you give me this Superman? Fuck you, Zack Snyder. That's what I was thinking while I was watching Supergirl.
Oh my god,
And
I thought the same thing, and they're gonna fuck him up even worse, right? Like now he's got like long hair and a beard and a fucking black suit. I'm like, oh my god,
we'll
he's
have
like going
plenty.
darker now.
we'll have plenty of time to bitch about that shit when Justice League comes out. But as of right now,
Yeah,
let's just give this guy props for
yeah, for sure.
his portrayal of Superman, and props to the CW crew for for bringing a Superman that we grew up with.
They knocked it out of the
Because
park with him. They knocked it out of the park.
and you're 100% right about up being upstage, because there's parts of Supergirl in the first season where I'm thinking like, this is kind of, I don't know if I can believe this person as a superhero. Sometimes there's times where she just kills it as Supergirl,
Yeah,
and then there's other times where it feels like she's still trying to find her footing as Supergirl in the show and in real life. Like I'm talking like behind, like as an actress.
right.
And in this show, when this episode where Superman came in, it felt like that guy has been in that universe for fucking ever and has his own show. Like he feels like he feels like he's the one who had the show for a full season, and
That's
she's the one coming in
that's exactly how I
as
felt.
guest starring. And
Um,
I felt the same way you did too, where I was like, no, 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 Superman, don't go off the screen. I want to see more of you, because I'm left with Henry Cavill's version of it, or Zack Snyder's version. Please don't leave me. Please don't fucking leave me,
right.
Superman. I'm like, I'm gonna cry when there's no more Superman on
Save
Supergirl.
me, Superman. Don't
Yeah,
leave.
Superman, please don't leave. Fucking for the love of God, please don't leave. I'm gonna have to play Supergirl episodes while I'm watching Justice League.
Right. uh, well, I hope they give him more to. I mean, I think he's going to be on there for a few more episodes, or at least I've heard he's going to be
It's
a
a shame though.
reoccurring.
It's a shame that I mean, thank you CW for bringing Superman the versions that we love, but it's a
Yeah, for
shame
sure.
because like now I'm like, can I have a Superman show, please? Because if the DC movie people don't want to, are saying like fuck the TV shows, even though the TV shows are way better than the movies, like okay, you
They
introduced
could.
your own Superman, give me a Superman show because I want that.
They could. They could very well do it. They could make it even just a mid-season replacement show, even if they do like 10 or 12 episodes. They could totally
I
do
would
it.
fucking love that, like they did with Agent Carter. Just give me 8 episodes of
Yeah,
just
yeah,
Superman.
absolutely, absolutely. They could totally do it, and it'll be in that universe, and they could have all sorts of different things going on. And I yeah, man,
Oh
boy,
fuck, I
you
want that
just got me
show
really excited thinking about that.
for
That'd be
something that
pretty
doesn't
amazing.
exist, that
Yeah,
nobody has talked
exactly,
about.
exactly. We should write
So
in.
I don't think yeah, I don't think I had as many problems with that you did.
Hmm.
My problems with the show still, I just mentioned it about just still trying to find your place in this world.
Yes.
There's times where she's really good. Melissa, how do you say her
Melissa
last name? Benoist.
Benoist, yeah, like Bemoist,
Yeah, she's
like
just
Benoist.
really great in the show sometimes, and other times it feels like, stop complaining while you're in the suit. It kind of takes it takes that away.
Yeah,
It takes
having
it takes
like
that confidence away.
she starts having like daily like human problems, and that kind of thing. And I get it that they're trying to like show you like, hey, even if you're like this super duper person, you still have like issues like everyone else that you got to
No, I
deal
get
with.
it too.
But
I love
it
the
gets to be
interaction.
too
My
much,
favorite parts
I
of
think.
this episode were the episodes between Clark and what the fuck's her name again? Not God, Kara.
Oh, cat.
Um,
Oh, Kara.
Kara, yeah. When Clark and Kara are talking, those are my favorite parts because she's asking him for advice, like how do you do it,
Yeah,
and he gives him, even though she's older by 12 years or whatever it is, age wise she's older, but he's been doing this for obviously much longer. I like that interaction where he's like mentoring her, but at the same time, for me and apparently for you too, it just takes away from the fact that the show is called Supergirl.
right. Yeah, I
Because
mean,
now I just want a Superman show.
totally. Totally. That's exactly what happened. Like by the end of it, I was like, I want more of that guy. Like
Oh,
that was
and the other
really
thing I
good.
wanted to make sure, I wanted to talk about too, was in the beginning of the first season, I really couldn't stand Callista Flockhart's version of Cat Grant,
I couldn't
and then
either.
they kind of shifted her they gave her heart basically, and they
Yes.
shifted her character a little bit. And what they did with Cat Grant is what they failed to do with Fish Mooney,
Yes.
because Cat Grant was on that same, wasn't as annoying as Fish Mooney, but she was getting there. And then all of a sudden they shifted her
Yes.
character, and then I started liking her a lot. And I really liked her in the first episode of the show. I don't know if you thought the same thing, but I
I
really
really
liked her in
liked
the
her in
first
this
episode.
episode. I liked her interactions with Clark, and I thought it was funny that that was the one person that she actually got tongue tied over, compared to like anybody
Yeah,
else. Anybody
yeah.
else, she was like, "Yeah, my face. I don't give a shit about you." But like
But
Clark,
if
for
you're a
whatever
woman,
reason,
I'm guessing, like, if you're a woman, and this goes for a guy too, I guess. If there's that girl or guy that is from Kansas, right, but is like drop dead gorgeous looking, has the physique, whether it be a woman or a man, has that southern charm to him or her, like,
yeah.
wouldn't that make that person 100 times more attractive than anybody you found in the city?
Oh, big time. Yeah, big time for sure. No, I like the way they handled that. I do like the way they've handled her character. And I've also heard that because they moved the show to Vancouver, that I think her presence is going to be less and less through the season, but she's still going to be part of the show. I just don't know
I
how
like her
much though.
presence in this show. And I especially liked her interactions more recently with Kara, because she's also mentoring her too in the real world, where Superman Clark mentors her as the superhero. She's mentoring her in as Kara, not Supergirl. You
Yeah,
know what
it's
I
a
mean?
real
Like,
good
she's the
parallelism going on there.
yeah.
It's
So
that is a really
I
good.
like that relationship now. I love the part where she's like, "Get out of my office. This is not that you don't want to do that." You know what I mean? Like, you barely spent any time like talking about who or thinking about what you want to do. And I just love the fact that she was being that like motherly figure to her.
Right. That is really, really super cool. So, I think we both kind of have the same opinions about the show. Me having a little bit more problem than you have, but we could both agree that Superman definitely was the highlight
Yeah, we
of
could
that
both
show.
agree that we want a Superman show.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, so before we sign off, how would you rank the shows right now? Like if you put a gun to your head,
Wow.
hey, how would you rate these shows? Like which? I mean, there's four
Okay,
now.
so okay,
What's your
so
four? What's your number
honestly,
four?
oh, number four, it probably has to be Arrow.
Okay.
I think it's Arrow. Number three is probably Legends. Number two is probably Flash, and number one is Supergirl, only because they have Superman on right now.
That's so weird because I was gonna say the exact same thing. That's so bizarre because I
Wait,
was
your
thinking,
ranking's
oh,
the
I was
same?
well because I was sitting here going like Vic's gonna probably say Legends is his number four, but wow, you got. I mean, that's exactly the same order that I had it in.
No,
Because
I
I
like
thought,
Legends now. I like it more than Arrow now because they're not going after Vandal Savage,
Savage,
and they're kind
yeah,
of doing something different. And the introduction of Reverse Flash kind of changes things a little bit.
yeah,
I don't know how tiresome it's going to be with the Reverse Flash fucking with time, even though it's not a Flash show.
right,
Um, but the things that they're introducing in Legends of Tomorrow, they're not bound by anything. So it makes sense for the time travel there, and I'm okay with the time travel there because that's the whole basis of the
premise of the
show.
show, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that. And
Well, what we could do is
Flash still has like the great actors in it. There's
yes,
everybody that I love. The guy who plays Cisco. I love Grant who plays Flash. Um, everybody's really good there, so I like all of them. Even though the 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 whole messing with time is really getting boring.
well, yeah, and it's kind of like mess with their characters. Like I didn't like any of their characters on the season two.
The new
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, the new one.
Well,
I didn't like any
towards
of
the end of yeah, towards the end of episode 2, it seemed like they went kind of back to a little bit normal.
them. Right.
Instead of so moody and shit, it was like fucking Zack Snyder directed 3/4 of that episode.
Totally. Oh my god. He's like, I got something to say. Let me do this for you
Yeah,
guys because I'm so successful right now.
yeah.
Um, But I mean, regardless, dude. I mean, these shows are better than a lot of things out there. So I'm going to continue to watch this all the way through, and we'll have to like revisit it maybe at the halfway mark, like around January or something like that. We'll see like where we rank the shows or how what they've done, because they always have that like mid season cliffhanger thing. So that'd be a good time to like kind of revisit the seasons on all four shows to see, especially after that crossover show. We definitely have to
Dude,
revisit it.
dude, I just looked up some shit on Superman, right? Because I'm like trying to figure out if there is a Superman talk show, like a
Okay,
show talk. And I didn't realize this, but the guy who plays Superman on Supergirl,
he's in
he
Teen Wolf.
was he was.
He was in
Oh,
Teen
right.
Wolf, the
No,
show
no,
Teen Wolf.
but I never watched Teen Wolf, but he was the son of Tom Hanks in Road to Perdition.
Oh no way!
Yeah,
Oh, how funny! Wow, that's
that's
a
pretty
really good
cool.
movie too. That's a super good movie.
Yeah, so the kid at the end where Tom Hanks gets killed, that's him.
Yeah, spoilers by the way.
Oh yeah, whoops. That's a, like over a 10-year-old movie.
Yeah,
Fucking,
yeah,
you should have watched it
exactly.
by now.
Yeah. You're like, not that Tom Hanks has ever been killed before. Jeez.
Yeah, he wasn't killed in Saving Private Ryan either.
Someone watches that movie, they're like, "Damn you!" They're
Yeah,
like, "He
he wasn't
died."
killed. He wasn't killed in Big either, or was
Yeah. He didn't get small again.
he?
All right, man. Well, we'll have to revisit the shows. It was an interesting last couple of weeks, but DC's still, they're still a lot better on the TV than they are on the big screen. That's for sure. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
well, that was episode 49 of Chew on This, a Nerds United podcast. I'm BJ.
Vic,
Chew on that, folks.
later.